Lemons, Holiday, Florida. Good afternoon.
How's everybody today?
Fantastic.
I'd like to address Senator Storms. Remember the show on News Channel 8, Christmas Eve, a comment made to Chad about changing the law from one father. Well, I have a false DCF report here to Statute 39. I have a letter of apology stating there were errors made. I have approached your office at least 24 times in the last year and a half for help, and it's been refused. The state attorney has barred me from the courthouse from proving my innocence, which I feel is against the law. And people that abuse the system, filing false DVI injunctions, false child abuse reports with DCF, should be prosecuted. I was promised prosecution by Nick Cox of DCF. I was promised prosecution by George Juarez, who is a CPI investigator. And none of this has happened. And I'd like to know why DCF refuses to help an innocent father who has not seen his child in 2 years because DCF is playing God on a closed case with no facts, nothing but puffery. And my ex-wife used her father's gold badge to manipulate the Hernando County court system, the Hernando County Sheriff's Office. My letters to the sheriff fell on dead ears. My letters to the governor fell on dead ears. And no one wants to help an innocent father. Now, this is an epidemic that is statewide. Expansion of the definition of domestic violence to include minor verbal disagreements, thus inviting heavy-handed state intervention into private family matters where they don't belong. The original judge in this case threw her out, told her to go home, grow up, get a life, and keep her issues out of the courthouse where they did not belong. They were personal. And yet no one in my county will step up. No one in DCF will step up. No one in the media will report about this. If it wasn't for my advocate, Mr. Lemons, Fathers Supporting Fathers of Florida, Mr. Dunn, I don't know where I'd be today, mentally. Because it has ripped my life apart. The state of Florida illegally stole a $300,000 home out from under me because the court awarded it to my wife, ordered her to pay. She defrauded everyone. Stole my child, stole my good, clean name. And in this economy, everybody's talking about jobs. Well, this DVI, false DVI, carries the same stigma as a sex crime. You get arrested, you go in jail, you lose your job. You're not going to find another job. This is affecting the economics of the state. DCF does not stand for Department of Children and Families. It stands for destroying children and families. Because this case was not properly investigated, both investigators, both being supervisors with DCF, have been fired. But yet DCF will not step up and admit they made errors. There are charges in the report that do not exist, never exist. And I have a letter here from your office I received Christmas Eve stating errors were made and they cannot be changed. Prosecution needs to happen to the women that are abusing the domestic violence laws in this state for their own gain. I had a clean record, 1 traffic ticket, 47 years of age, never been in trouble. Yet the state of Florida doesn't care that a woman is lying for her own financial gain. Men are forced to pay, and pay, and pay, and pay. And when we can't pay, we face jail time. And it's wrong. I lost my home, my business, my children. A good, clean name. 2 years I've been leading this fight. Ruthie J on Christian Radio, Reach FM out of Fort Lauderdale, addressed this with Mission Minutes. The invisible group of men that surround us every day, the falsely accused. And I just received this letter from your office 2 days ago, stating it's a judicial and law enforcement problem. When it is a legislative issue with the heavy-handedness of the laws here in Florida. Now, especially when she can go to the courthouse 4 times, fill out false affidavits, and the judge goes, go home, you have nothing. And then they grant her one on the 5th time, and it has nothing to do with domestic violence. Judge throws it out of court. She should have been prosecuted. She should have been stopped from ever writing another false domestic violence injunction. But in my county, they're handed out like candy bars at the corner store with no evidence. And then we have the prosecutors that practice the no-drop clause. which Amanda Garman, state attorney in my county, who was fired for being dirty, practiced in those rock claws with me. There was no proof, no evidence, and she still pursued the prosecution. And you say that people that are innocent should be cleared. Ms. Storms, Chapter 39, Section 39, whatever this is, false allegations. She needs to be prosecuted. She needs to be made an example of, and every other woman out there that is doing this purposely. Gain the children, gain the home, and the finances, and the divorce. It's a dirty tactic. I have never done anything, and in the DCF report states, 14 years of marriage, I never touched her. Eyewitness statements in the DCF report, blocked in court, which could have put her in jail for perjury, and had her prosecuted. But the state attorney slapped her hand. Instead, I lost my home, my daughter, a successful six-figure-a-year business that I built from my deathbed, ripped from me, based on lies. And when I went to the state attorney, they refused to help. I've been banned from the courthouse, calling the courthouse. Mr. Brad King himself called me personally on his phone from Ocala. Quote, unquote, you are a loser, an abuser, got what you deserve, you need to walk away. Do not call, do not show, you will be arrested and thrown in jail for trespassing. Period. I have not been able to do anything since. My hands have been tied. And this is wrong, and it needs to stop. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry for being very emotional here, but it needs to be addressed. Too many lives are being ruined by the courts on false allegations. The stigma does not go away. My clients used to Google me. They get my business, all my social networks, my communication. Now all they get is a mugshot from the jail. I used to make $150 grand a year on my own as a business owner, built with my own two bare hands. Now I'm lucky if I see 25 or 30 grand a year, and I'm scraping while she's walking the street, based on lies with my daughter that I haven't seen in 2 years. And I feel it's wrong, Ms. Storms. I think DCF needs to step up and start prosecuting people who are abusing the system. Am I right or wrong? Lives are being ruined here because of this.
I can answer one thing.
Ms. Storms, Senator Storms.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, just so you understand where we are in the process, about a year and a half ago, we began taking a look at false abuse through DCF, and it came to our attention that DCF wasn't even keeping track of false allegations. And so we didn't know what the record is for false allegations. How many prosecutions do we have for false allegations?
Less than 2%.
And so, excuse me. Okay. So we are taking a look at that. So we did an interim report, and we determined that there isn't anything. So the next step was to find in those cases that we are seeing some prosecutions of false reporting. Where is the success rate? What jurisdiction is having success? And what we found is that state attorneys across the state are not willing, in general, to file prosecutions of for false reports. And so one of the things we're going to be taking a look at this legislative session is to provide a mechanism for a foundation for prosecution. We don't know what that will look like yet, what that legislation will look like yet, but sort of what we're thinking of is maybe a civil citation. So if you have somebody who is historically false reporting for reasons that, for whatever, they don't like their neighbor's dog or something, for whatever it is, or whether it's an acrimonious divorce, then you issue a civil citation, and that has financial penalties associated with it. And that doesn't it's not a criminal penalty, so you don't have these state attorneys having to make the decision to prosecute for a felony. And then at maybe the third civil citation, then it goes to prosecution because this person has been, maybe it's like a 3 strikes you're out. I don't know if that's what the legislation will look like, but there is a problem that does need to be addressed. Right now, there isn't an appropriate venue for us, me or you or anybody else, to take a look at a case and say this is clearly the CPI investigating it found there was no basis for it. And there needs to be a mechanism for that. So that's issue one. The second issue that needs to be addressed is what do we do with people who have been investigated and have been found to be innocent of all charges, that there is no foundation. That person, for their whole life, will remain on the rolls. there's no way for them to go through and clear their name and to come off of those rolls. For the rest of their life, they will have to say, if they're asked a question, have you ever been reported for child abuse, they will have to say, yes, that's true. And they will always stay on the rolls. There's good public policy for the reason, for that rationale. You know, we want to kind of know if you know, have you had 3 times it's been a real close call, but we haven't been able to find it, and now here you are. There's really good basis for that rationale, but we need to do a cost-benefit analysis, and we need to find out, you know, what is the cost of some of these people that have been, you know, accused, and they have a right to have their name cleared. They have a right to have their name cleared. So that's what we're looking at, and you know, the fact of the matter is today, as we said, there isn't a way for me or for you or for anybody else to say, hey, I think this guy is innocent or I think this woman is innocent and you need to prosecute. I can't make that happen today. But we can come up with a way to say for the state attorneys that say, you know, I don't want to chill legitimate child abuse reports. You know, we don't want to be prosecuting people who are just good Samaritans doing what they're supposed to do. You don't want to prosecute a teacher or a neighbor who thinks something bad is happening, and then suddenly we don't get any child abuse cases reported because people are afraid that they're going to get prosecuted. That's good public policy. We need to overcome that, and so that's what we're working on. Just so you know.
You said something about 3 strikes and then it's a civil citation. 1 strike for us, our life is over. The civil rights violations that are happening to men here.
Sir, I'm not going to debate it with you right here. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for you to have that debate. That's not what I said. I didn't say 3 strikes and you're out. But
civil citation.
No. What I'm talking about is once you've been determined on your first instance, you would get a civil citation for false reporting. Now, once you get 3 tickets, maybe, then you get prosecuted for the felony.
I've got 10 false reports.
Mr. Chairman, how do you say
Petruska.
Petruska, excuse me.
Yes.
I can understand and empathize why you're quite frustrated. I would, though, tell you that you apparently, and the issue has risen to the level that one of the leaders in the Senate, Senator Storms, is put substantial time and effort into beginning to try to understand this. Not just in your case, but in all cases.
It's not just for me, sir. It's for every man that's out there.
Well, man, woman, don't care.
But I have a letter clearing me stating they made mistakes. Why won't DCF go after her? Why? I've got a letter clearing my name stating we made errors.
I understand.
Both investigators, supervisors, fired, but yet they're not going to help me.
I would suggest
you ruined my life, but they won't help me put it back together, and it's wrong on DCF's part. They ripped my life apart. Decisions were made on a dirty report. That included charges that never existed, ever. Okay. And the judge made his decision based on a dirty report. And it's wrong. I lost everything.
Well, unfortunately, courts make wrong decisions more often than we'd like. But I think you'll be more successful if you work with us to try to resolve these issues. And who are you?
Oh, Tom Lemons.
Okay.
Right. Tom Lemons, FalseDVIReports.com. Founded an organization in Hernando County to help men who've been falsely accused of domestic violence. Like Mr. Petruska, who's had a lot of problems with DCF issues and losing his child. He's just one of thousands and thousands of cases. So this is a very tragic one, like many others. But I talk to men every day who go through the same thing. My particular organization pertains mainly to domestic violence injunctions and the ability to, or how you acquire them. I've found over the last year, through studies I've done, research, sitting in on domestic violence hearings, that approximately 80% of them are thrown out. The majority of them, usually the petitioner doesn't even show up. And again, this is used as a tactic of divorce and child custody battles in most cases. Unfortunately, like he also stated, with being a star on your record, it does. Even a domestic violence injunction, if you try to get a job, they pull up your record and, well, you're a violent abuser. Even though it was an allegation, and even those thrown out, you are viewed as an abuser. And unfortunately, this is not a small amount. This is not a small number. And I'm seeing these every day. I go to many court hearings. And on top of this, you get the stigma of society saying that men represent 95% of the abusers in America. That's not true either. However, that's just the stereotype that's presented. I'm trying to get across to legislation to get something done, as far as like Mrs. Storm had mentioned, some type of prosecution, some type of civil or criminal prosecution against false accusers. Whether it starts with a fine or even warn potential, people who are trying to acquire a domestic violence injunction that there is a penalty, and not just a small sign on the corner that says, under perjury, under penalty of law. That doesn't work, because people who are using this for tactics, they're actually, and in a lot of cases, they're actually, you won't hear this from many people, but their attorneys are encouraging to use it as a tactic, and that happens all the time. This needs to stop, and this needs to change immediately. I mean, we need to get legislation in there that stops, that prevents it. I mean, let's tell people, and it's not just women, it's men and women, but I represent men with my organization, and there's an organization in Hernando County called the Dawn Center. I'm in line with them. I'm actually on good terms with all the women's groups and men's groups in the area. There's no funding available for men's groups, very little, maybe private funding, but nothing through federal or state level. VAWA, Violence Against Women's Act, provides nothing, no funding for that. It's unfair, it's biased, and public opinion on top of what's going on with our court systems is ruining men's lives. And I just say men because that's who I represent. I know it goes across the board, but men are being targeted in a lot of cases as being the abusers. It's already public opinion that way. So that judges, and I don't blame the local judges as much as I do the federal law, but judges, prosecutors are not prosecuting, as Mrs. Storm said. They're not prosecuting these accusers when there are false allegations. And that's my primary stance here today, is just to see that something is done to try to prosecute these accusers when it's clear that they were false allegations, especially when children are involved and men and women are losing their children under these allegations. It's wrong, and it's destroying families. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, next on this subject, William Dunn.
Yes, my name is William Dunn with Father Support and Followers of Florida. I'm the Florida president. I was here 2 years ago with my story. If anybody doesn't know, I tried to be a part of my daughter's life, and actually the mother's boyfriend attacked my daughter when she was 5 years old, and they placed the daughter with me, and after the investigation, since the mother was at work, they gave the child back to the mother where he abused her again, and then the mother, she knew she was going to lose the child, called DCF and made a false report that I sexually abused my daughter. They never interviewed me or my wife that I'm married to. The child's mother I was never married to, she was a friend of mine, but they never interviewed anybody in my household. They yanked my daughter away for 11 months. My daughter had heart surgery due to the stress and anxiety. Only one that really ever tried to help me was Baxter Troutman. He got a hold of I guess it was Buttersworth when he was in the DCF. They never did nothing. I'm actually having a lawsuit right now against DCF. And there's so many findings that my attorney's finding in their file that they knew the mother coached the child and still proceeded to my parental rights. And what are we going to do about this? My daughter, she's scarred for life. I'm scarred for life. Even though the mother recanted and said it never happened, it's still an issue. I tried to raise her today. I just got out of depots with DCF with my 12-year-old stepson. It haunts you the rest of your life, even though I've been acquitted being innocent. Ms. Storms, the statement you made to Channel 8 News, Chad Giss is my partner. Nothing personal. But I got to bond with his little girl for 11 months. I got him to go to my church. He accepted Christ. That's who he fell to his knees for having an affair on his wife. The little girl needs her dad. And nothing hard against you. Like I said, I bonded with the child. I deal with guys every day that are suicidal. And the comment you made that feel sorry for the child but not the dad, he had an affair on his wife, which he, fell to his knees and God forgive him. But this little girl is being raised without a father. And like I said, I got plenty of, my main thing is just the false allegations. 3 strikes, your life's ruined in 1 strike. My life is ruined from 1 strike, not 3. What are you going to do about it? What are we going to do about it?
Yeah, and please, if you got a camera shoved in your face and you ask to respond immediately, sometimes you
I agree with that.
don't
Yes, sir.
speak perfectly.
I agree.
And without full ability to consider it, and it's an occupational hazard.
Well, they edit a lot of stuff too. I understand that. The media puts what you want. The public to hear. But my thing is, 1 strike and my life is ruined. I mean,
I understand your frustration.
it's a wildfire, and nobody wants to do anything about it. And it's not just with dads. I mean, Citrus County, when they met with their sheriff's department, they have a unit that oversees DCF. And when they're found to be false reports, like mine, right here, it states, this is from DCF. Ms. Shope has made false statements regarding William Dunn of sexual abuse. This is DCF's file right here. They're not doing nothing to the mother. In Citrus County, they fine them $1,000. It's mandatory to go on Baden's 9 and mandatory to put in the public paper. What are we waiting for?
Okay. Senator Storms.
Thank you. Just so that I can answer one issue, and that is that I'm not trying to pass judgment on what any other county is doing or what other state attorney is doing, but any state attorney in the state who is levying fines against anybody or going to speak with them, or sheriff's official that is going to speak with them and ticketing somebody is acting very enthusiastically, and I am not in a position, and no one else is in a position, to mandate that the other 66 counties do something like that. And I'm not even sure that that is something that we could mandate at this point. So we have taken a look at what one county in the whole state is doing to see how feasible it is to move that across the state. We would like to look at all strategies to stop unfounded abuse. And, it's not that I have not looked at that. That's that issue. The other issue doesn't have anything to do with abuse, has nothing at all to do with unfounded reports. It does have to do with child custody and divorce, and whether or not we open up paternity in every single divorce case. Whether you want to, in every single divorce case, whether the state of Florida, because one person had an illicit affair with another man's wife, and that woman got pregnant and had a baby, and paternity in the state of Florida is recognized with the marital couple. That's what the state of the law is. And the public rationale for that is because we don't want to open up paternity in every divorce or marital case. That the standard of the law in the state of Florida is, we believe that if you are a married couple and you have a baby, that it is presumed that the mother is the mother and the father is the father. And there's good, sound public policy for that. And if anybody wants to change the law for one person's bad decision, be my guest, it'll come before my committee. So I want you to understand what my perspective is on that. And that's what I've said. Thank you.
Ms. Storms, is it wrong for his daughter to know who her dad is? I mean, I know he had an affair. It's not right. I don't believe it. I'm a Christian. But is it right for this little 6-year-old girl not to know who? Put it this way. She knew who her daddy was, and the judge yanked his rights back away. So now the little girl's confused. I mean, that's my point. I'm not trying to, contradict you or say that an affair is fine. But is it right that this little girl doesn't know she's put with her dad and then yanked from her dad a year later?
Mr. Dunn, we appreciate you raising the issue, and today is not the day to debate it. We're here to hear issues, and we have a